Lazzaretto, 3 discuss nothing inside of a wall. Cast of characters: Balloon, a civil servant and cultural attaché. Belvedere, an intellectual working on a gargantuan, encyclopedic, interdisciplinary study of super yachts. Jim Pest, an artist. We open on a day like any other for the inhabitants of the Lazzaretto, a 15th century waterfront quarantine enclosure built to protect against outbreaks of plague. Our characters entered their quarantine some centuries ago and, finding it suited them, never left. The Lazzaretto has since been converted into a cultural center to encourage waterfront development. Outside its walls, 3 social strata exist. The yacht builders, jovial laborers constructing super yachts in a nearby shipyard. Net smashers, who smash the corpses of sea creatures out of nets with mallets. And drifters, unenclosed others whose language is unhearable, their voices audible only when they yell or cry. Scene 1, a plan. A bright day in the pentagonal courtyard of the Lazzaretto. There's a pale dust on the ground. Balloon approaches Jim Pest, kneeling before the strategic redevelopment plan, a large glossy sign presenting a multi-tiered plan for waterfront development.
Jim Pest, thrice written on the walls. The study sky.
Yes, I continue to experience it.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. I like it. And how do you?
I like it.
I too like it.
Jim Pest, what artistry engages your day?
I am hard at work on a measurement. I've decrypted a bent angle on the strategic redevelopment plan. The distance is of concern. I seek to develop a sub-tertiary collaborative micro-proposal. I hope to strategize the uncertain distance into coherence. It should be clear to one who studies the plan that this distance denotes the current limit of strategy's process. Unfortunately, it's inconsistent. To put it briskly, it varies. I find its inconsistency repugnant. I will measure each variation and record them here in our dust. In this way, we will further the outreach of the plan.
Corruption keep us that your good work is not underrepresented.
Jim Pest uses a stone tied to a string to measure distances between boxes of text on the strategic redevelopment plan and scratches them in the dust with a piece of rebar.
The Committee for Urban Redevelopment, in conversation with the greater community, has developed a strategic plan for redevelopment of the waterfront.
It is good work. Your work betters the waterfront. Culture is vital for maintaining the waterfront, which is a powerful and largely untapped economic resource which ought to be revitalized in service of the public good.
Thank you.
Today I labor mightily at the bilge.
The corruption keep us.
These centurion fluids which never cease to flow.
Nothing liquefies, nothing liquid, nothing limpid on the walls. A pentagonal sun, a stone, a bit of sun on the body bilging.
You are a poet, Jim Pest. A great voice which feelingly regurgitates the most pressing issues of our moment. You are a Renaissance man. An idea. We will have a show for you. A retrospective. Let your name attain to the walls.
You, Balloon, are a cultural interpreter.
I am a humble servant of the culture.
A cultural interpreter of the highest pedigree.
I believe in the power of culture to stimulate a revitalized economy.
It is by investing in ourselves that we will experience revitalization.
Well, to the bilge. Perhaps in August we will have a show for you. I will reach my feelers out to the center.
I will anticipate your messages.
Balloon, wearing one patent leather shoe with a low heel, walks unsteadily towards the walls. Jim Pest continues to scratch and measure, flourishing his rebar preciously.
And 11.32656, carry the 6 and hold the I. And 11.8.256, down with the pigs, and a sigh, cut the 6 and carry the 5. At sea and a dead ship, poke in the eye. Point 6, up 6, 1 and 9. Wrap up the 6 in a shroud, Wrap a 6 proud and carry it down. Wrap a 6 proud and toss it to drown.
Belvedere appears at the top of the walls as Jim Pest sings.
Jim Pest, what is your concert?
Doctor, I am writing a concerto for a retrospective of my work in the second mote, scheduled for late July. I hope you can attend.
Smoke and rot, Jim Pest, smoke and rot. You are little better than the pig for whom you croon for, though you take a giddy pleasure in it. You know only that you sing, not how music is. Thus it can mean nothing. You are a charlatan, and the walls will forget you when your body overflows them. Mark my words.
I mark them here, Doctor.
Jim Pest uses his rebar to scratch a mark in the dust mockingly, stands back, considers his work, adds a flourish, then turns his back and pointedly continues to measure. Despite this bold performance, it is apparent that he is crestfallen.
Jim Pest, you are crestfallen. See how my words mark. Even in your fury, your mark is weaker than mine. There is a lesson here. It is the sharpness of having a point that marks. Though you may hold the rod today, you would do well to think on that.
A culture which degrades its artists, rots at its core, and leaves its door open. And how is your magnum opus, Doctor?
Ceaselessly encircling. In chapter 48, I consider the array of the masting of the Lady Maura out of Monaco as an apparatus reminiscent of, or not dissimilar to, the arcane numeracies of the Magdalenian necromantic mysteries, galvanized, as are they, though in this case not along the lines of the chewed bone so much as by the unwalled stretches of the glittering escapes of the sea, galvanized, that is, by a particular set of vividly oracular angles, branching strategically, so to speak, across the cruel wastes, be they flesh or flotsam, toward attaining a perfect wholeness of the skin, a symbolic seaworthiness. She is a very fine boat, a very fine boat. You have nothing to say? Well, I must continue with my work. Always and again, the walls may wait, but they do not wait for me.
They do not wait for me.
Belvedere disappears along the walls, humming the tune of Jim Pest's song. Jim Pest measures and scratches without flourish for some while.
A day job is a day job. A plumb bob is a plumb bob. A dog is an agent of the pest. Vermin, the ins and the outs. The dog licks the sores of the man. The pest pities the man. It bites at him with its pity. The flea clipped. A skin is a net. A net is a solid of holes. In holes, we are told, life clings. It must be disposed of with violence. What remains unanticipated? What remains us? And the reverse? These are some of the most pressing issues of our time. I am reminded. Recently, I was strolling below the cornice of the south-southeastern wall, where I often take my morning spell. I looked down to discover the fresh corpse of a pigeon. I could readily deduce from the limpness of its form that the bird that had so lately flapped its wings, believing the sky to proceed without end, had struck the brilliant new plate glass window panes adorning our state-of-the-art cultural center. With a crack of the neck, it died and fell. It flew no more. What does this tell us? It tells us, 1, that a wall may be deceiving. It tells us, 2, that a wall may press. It tells us, 3, some ways that a wall may mark.
Balloon returns with a dark glass bottle and a purse.
I will take my lunchtime in the shadow. Would you join me?
I will.
Belvedere believes he has attained a hinging reinforcement in his magnum opus.
He is puffed up on his own loose flume.
He is cruel to you because he must be. Consider, you do your work because you must. That is who you are. Belvedere too does what he does because he must. He must because it is his nature. It is his nature because it is his work. His work sustains him. He is a very brilliant man.
His work is never showcased. He keeps it under lock and key. He believes it is above critical encounter. A haughty enclosure, it is selfish of him.
He nourishes it in secretion. It is his process. He is a great mind. It pains him, though he would never say. It is a great weight on him, and so he is cruel. And his cruelty will improve your work. It is a generous cruelty, the cruelty of a great man. It is generous, though never profligate. Care for a small fish?
Yes, please?
Balloon takes a saucer from the purse, polishes it on a cuff, and gently lays a pickled sardine, also drawn from the purse, across the saucer.
It is freshly brined.
I will enjoy it. It's delicious. Its coolness brings out the flavor of the brine, while its texture, both slick and filigreed, affords a soupçon of decadence. You have outstripped yourself.
I am glad you like it. It's nice to grow fish. It is one of my chief hobbies.
Someday I would like to see your garden.
My garden is where I do my best work. It revitalizes me, being among the fish in their pots, stirring them, straining them, and brining them. I am a simple person, of simple tastes. Look at that shadow. Another day, another day. Good afternoon, Jim Pest. I walk the walls tonight. I will look for you.
Good afternoon, Balloon.
Scene 2. Economic stimulus. Balloon approaches the staircase to the walls. Belvedere stands above.
Hello, Professor Belvedere. Bitten on the walls?
Who's that?
Oh, I am only a simple person. I am called Balloon. It's time for my guard rotation.
I doubt we've met. Who are you? I wouldn't expect myself to know someone of such low stature, someone so wholly unimpressive. You are like a blot, a low smear. Do you have a face? I can hardly see you. You blend into the dust.
It is a fine day. Have there been any disturbances?
Are you speaking? Say something. Do you wish to walk the walls?
I am called Balloon.
Yes, of course, the bilge attaché, isn't it? You are too quiet. You should speak loudly and with vigor to assert your command of reality. Please watch your step. I think you will very much enjoy the views from the walls. Its vistas are eminently impressive for those of us who court the wild, unpopulated deserts, the wastes, and the glittering expanse. I am a scholar of yachts myself. I expect you've heard of my work.
Balloon, still shod in a single patent leather heel, clambers with difficulty up the stairs.
The ticket is 18 euros.
Balloon hands Belvedere a handful of currency.
Thank you. Your ticket. You will find that to walk the walls is to ponder the solidity of a whole. Though we may imagine ourselves immune to the outside, in fact, we are not impervious. It is here, striding their lip, that we discover walls are but a thin membrane on a brutal continuum. Look at our Lazzaretto. Look at the beauty of its form, the unsullied geometry of its architecture. Is it not fine? Is it not elegant? It is like a mind, the blank and innocent mind of a newborn. Like a mind, it can suffer pollution, contagion, all manner of vile degradation and assault. It can decay, as within, so without. Well, you can see it from here. The yacht builders are in fine form today.
I believe it can be a great force for good to observe other ways of life and to experience the beauty of an ancient city. It provokes morality. I hope you have enjoyed the opportunity to work here. The strategic plan for waterfront redevelopment views science and the arts as twin cornerstones which together make up the bedrock of culture. This is why we furnish scientists, artists, and thinkers across the disciplines who have distinguished themselves in their fields with this competitive stipend of 18 euros. We look forward to acknowledging the work this opportunity has enabled you to produce.
Accept my gratitude. This work will not fall short of acknowledgement, though a project of such magnitude as mine cannot be speeded.
The sound of human activity is heard faintly outside the wall.
Doctor, an encroachment.
Balloon and Belvedere rush to the parapet. A haphazard cluster of drifters crouches over a sandwich nearby. One is combing sand from it gently with an old toothbrush as the others watch.
Flume! Pustule! Unfixed quality! Scat! Scat!
Some of the drifters start and scramble up in confusion. Another falls to the ground, covers head.
What number can ever attain to your unbounded faces? None, mute zeros. Where is your fee? Nowhere. You are sagging void, uncoded and inarticulate zones. Blank pamphlets. How dare you approach an edge so boldly? Squid!
Balloon scoops up handfuls of dust and small pebbles from the walls and hurls them over the edge.
Touch our disease, you. Touch the fine motes shed by our shroud. Take it into you.
The drifters flee this barrage.
Oh, they are to be pitied. They are a highly vulnerable population, though whence and where rests the moral duty to transmute another's failure to secure their borders? Look, they have left their sandwich. One might ask whether a man who shows so little regard for his own food, who shows so little regard for securing his own food, can be helped, whether he should be. Still, to witness these reviled and anchorless populations in their scrabbling lowness, that is an experience which ought to give one pause. It is a shame we can do so little for them. Like them, we suffer. It is ours to suffer helplessness.
Well put, Doctor. It is a shame. We are so fortunate and pitiable in our helplessness. I will speak to the center about developing your rhetoric into a slogan. I make no promises, but perhaps we can secure a poster to promote public concern for suffering as a means of scaffolding compassion throughout the area of the waterfront.
Excellent. Each of us has a responsibility. I will fish up that foreign sandwich and donate it to the cultural center so that it can be appreciated. Enjoy your walk, stride assertively. The views are quite astounding.
Balloon walks away reciting diseases.
There is autumn fever. There is plowman's syndrome. And there are sea tremors and cucumber jaw. There is November bellicosity and mother's grief. There is arboreal lamentation and sand liver. There is morning tongue and temporary dryness. There is plumber's stomach and miscalculated children. There are spotted clots and aggrieved cartilage. Powder's venom, librarian's ear, criminal's bloat, and digestive tightness. There is culminating passivity, widow's lung and steam shivers, miner's foot and circuitous posture, crimson deflation and pulmonary galvanism.
Scene 3, the letting of the bilge.
The morning is warm.
Indeed, warm indeed.
Our fortune is great.
We are fortunate insofar as we profit from the virtues of the cycle that grants us this agreeable atmosphere.
Right again. Perhaps it is not Belvedere, but you, Balloon, who are the philosopher. So keen is your grasp on the cycle's respiration.
No, it is no philosophy to make notice of the successive angularities of our pattern. I merely observe, as part of my capacity.
Balloon's attention is drawn away by the bilge vase on the parapet of the walls.
The letting is imminent. I have suffered pangs of eagerness all morning. What a thrill.
Our accumulation has been vast this fortnight.
Our optimism is eclipsing, but our delirium will soon crescendo.
The exteriors have not seen a bilge letting like this in some time, though it is hard to know the quality of their memory. I find them often very surprised when the bilge is let. One wonders if they can recall its letting from let to let.
Well, of course, we are blessed with a highly productive temporal compression within. It is one of the virtues of the wall.
I enjoy discussing the ways in which the interior and the exterior count time to incommensurate tempos. It is fine to find oneself so agreeably differentiated, is it not?
Balloon, distracted, blissfully contemplates the empty bilge vase.
It is pleasing to be reminded that we, the enclosed, endure more pronounced lives than those beyond the dust.
What validity you bring to our conversation. It is quite pleasing.
A lifetime lasts a quarantine.
Of course, it is important to be reminded of this.
It is always worthwhile to ponder the validity of the lives of those you cannot know. And yet, one always arrives back at the mystery of the unknowable, back at the breachless point at which one began. It is one of the final mysteries of our situation. It's why there is art.
Yes, though the center could speak on the matter with more firmitude, of course.
I can speak on this matter with great firmness. I am an authority on matters of validity and duration.
We have been offered a firm lecture. Please, Professor, speak to us on the nature of interior time.
It is quite simple for me to speak. For others to hear may be difficult. However, I begin. Each life breaches from the walls on the first day ago. From that day forward, residents work for 40 days, which is to say, they wait. This is to say, they suffer continuation as a barter against the wall's permanence. Hence, to all and each the walls may wait, but they do not wait for me. Which is to say, when the last page is written, it is the dust that determines our time. Of course, on the exterior, they employ various absurd rota of celestial bodies as ciphers for time, but here we know that it is the winds of dust and dust alone that claim dominion over duration, not some dizzy circling of orbits. I will now take questions from the audience.
Speak on the velocities at which the outside burns time.
There are no questions? Perhaps we are overawed.
Surely we are not schoolboys twittering at scandals, but estimable stage actors capable of absorbing awe with due reverence. Please tell us, how fast does time aggregate outside the walls?
Do not rush mensuration. Let me ponder the number here one moment. 1 day to 237,250 minutes. These days would of course be cut, reduced, and expressed in years by the yacht builders and sundry, who are not capable of grasping the density of the larger numbers which establish their true circumstance. This is not to belittle the yacht builders, for they are very good at what they are good at, very good indeed. They are not suited to scholarship, however.
And thank you for your intelligent comments. Perhaps you could define the nature of a year?
Oh, a year is a dread thing. It is quite possibly the worst thing one can imagine.
I hate years.
It must take a great deal of time to live years, too long to fully ascertain one's purpose from moment to moment. How pitiable. And yet what marvelous exhibitions they could have demonstrated in this time. What fascinations, what technologies. Why do they remain so crude?
Ha! Yes, indeed. There have been the shoes, the purses, the socks, the hats, the microwaves, the books, the t-shirts, the souvenirs, the bracelets, the shoes, the hats, the radios, the phones, the socks. Round and round they go in our 40 days. But here we stand with our faith and our labors strong.
But surely I am not the only one who sees Logic demands one ask how this frames us to them. For those that live their 20 years a half-life, our labors must appear as a held pose. So rank are they with minutes that they cannot remember to know the work we do here within.
An artistic thought.
Hearsay! Let their 500 years pass, and our way be carried forth a stench from the hospital under their nose.
You quicken to defer.
I anger stridently at your line of wonder, to be sure, but not without cause. What trivials you pass amongst yourselves. We don't live time, but time turns us. A year.
Thank you.
Yes. Time is but for dim fascination among those without a role to fulfill. The only time is dust. Dust!
Your eloquence does not betray you, Belvedere, today. We are so fortunate to live in such a time.
Have you heard nothing? You confuse time with walls, walls with bilge.
The lighting of the bilge keeps us sturdy, endows us with scope, opens tomorrow and closes yesterday. Its processing is essential to ensure cultural vitality on the cultural coast.
Arrows growing out of diameters, puncturing circles folded around walls.
Well, you've given us much to think about. Your concepts, as usual, I find difficult to circumstantiate. Yet, isn't it time?
Raise the bilge!
Balloon collects the bilge vase and walks off stage. Balloon returns carrying the bilge vase, full of a vile-looking, thin, yellowish jelly.
What an occasion. As you can see, the bilge's contents are very proud to be a part of the bilge. The contents' generous contributions will be well marked. Jim Pest, please open the matriculation while I aim the hose.
With eagerness, the net smashers will receive quite a douse today.
Balloon stands perched on a stool over the wall and pours the bilge into a funnel. It sprays beyond the wall towards the net smashers. They hardly look up, being outside its range.
A light effect.
Balloon, Belvedere, and Jim Pest observe for some moments, but there is little to see. Jim Pest departs the walls. The net smashers continue to smash the nets. Scene 4, Miasma.
Someone ought to look at the pump.
How that undisciplined clocking of hammers agitates my phlegm. Not one morning's reprieve are we allowed from the net smashers. What functions they collude out in the shallows. The pathetic machines who labor only to eat.
Though, of course, we know from optimism that they are traditional allies in our struggle for demarcation.
No need to quote the records to me, small attaché. It is only a minor agony their toil induces, almost as though their labors were designs from anguish. Are there no more parsimonious manners of liberating the corpses of the sea from their nets must they be hammered out with those piercing mallets?
The deafening drop of their blows is the pulse that keeps the miasma at bay. Imagine a world without their morning bellicosity.
I don't indulge fancy.
Allow me then. As ever, the light opened on the walls, illuminating the dust in its congregation. The morning was still, the industry silent. The people of the walls were awed by the silence. To be sure, the novelty of the placid was quite compelling to begin. The people shared uncertain smirks as they began to coalesce at the center pew. A springsome ease seduced. But it was false. Alarm set in, first from the observers aloft the wall. It was a fog.
Drew's fog. We know the stories.
Yes, the last fog, Drew's fog, had taught the people to fear the portents of sea clouds, for it had strangled all words and asphyxied the population within the walls. A fog, as we know, is lured into the hollows of sound. Only the screams of man's tools can deter fog. Fog finds a silence and multiplies it, spreading it into a submissive panic. And so, in this new fog, the people crept and scurried into the walls most inhumanely.
I am a man who wearies impressively quick of the story.
Well, in the silence, the people howled and hacked their howls as their throats twisted in the fog, and they scurried about in the wafting miasma that settled broodingly on the walls like a dark and vapid thought, and they wished the net smashers would return with their guttural songs, their hammers, and the mundane tinkling of their cracked shells. And of course, I needn't tell you the overall depressive impact of this silence on waterfront development moving forward.
Your projection reminds me of a universal myth I studied deeply once in my youth. It emanated from the primordial hairpins through the hints and traces left in the lesser myths of the fallen civilizations of the later Indus Valley. In it, the world was a great boat, risen up on stilts, being taken apart by neutral demons. Ah, fog.
You should not speak of fogs. You curse our dust. Am I the only one who cares to work, and not chitter and gum at imaginary fogs without purpose on the walls? Gum! Your chatter is less than idle, for it simulates an occult danger. It may manifest the same self-same sentiments it describes. Talk of the darkness of Drew's vapid thought. I fear I myself am beginning to scurry.
Ha! You are low enough. I can see no difference between your scratched lid and those of the net smashers. None at all but position. A simple matter of corporal twisting.
Quietly, I work at my work. It is more that can be said of you, who smash and hack with your tongue.
I am a critic. I shall not shy from my work. I shall be neither hectored nor bullied.
We ought not ignore Jim-Pest's fear. Fear is a great driver of culture.
Fear inspires, it heightens mortality, and hones the population, and spices desire.
I court the expanse myself.
So we have been told. Well, bold professor, might you submit to a test?
I will take a test. I have never flinched in the face of a test. However, I shall not submit.
Your fluency in the mechanics of interested discourse is second to none, sir. We ought to add legate to your florilegium of titles. Here is your test. Close your flumy old eyes and stand at the edge of the wall.
Perhaps later.
But there is no later in your philosophy, which I had understood seizes its object most precipitously.
The doctor may have other matters to attend to. He is very busy.
Off me, pest! Craven needsome thing. I do not flee a test.
A great man does not shirk his test, Balloon.
Each day we are tested.
The way a man meets his test is the truest measure of his worth. Define the parameters.
Close your eyes and stand at the edge of the wall. The brim of the wall shall be the test site. Balloon, accompany me in the dust to observe.
Is it a test of the professor's safety? The Cultural Center endorses all measures to ensure that its output doesn't threaten the safety of its consumers.
I go a sacrifice to science. If I shall perish, I shall perish for reason.
Now,
But first, I would like to speak my last words.
It is fitting that he should speak. For the record, great men who undertake great tests speak great words for the record. The center would wish him to speak.
if he must.
Of being, I am only one, a singular man. I have never claimed otherwise. Thus, let all the airy angels observe. Let the air itself be as an optic glass to heighten the limpidity of my testing in the eyes of the angels of science. Here, at the precipice of my test, I can feel with pragmatic intensity the great gorge of the air, spangled with all the salts of the vast expanse, open to slather me with courage. When they ask why I perished, you may tell them I perished for reason. I reached out my hand to science.
That's enough.
The experimenter undercuts my event. My speech was meant to build. I was piecing a rhetoric. And now I shall have to start over.
His object of science, not its sentinel. It is neither scientifically sound nor practically appropriate that he should commandeer this test for his bombast.
On that, well, I would have to refer to the center.
The center should not dictate the speech of its producers. That greases the palm of fascism.
Very well. I am an artist, not a fascist. I do not seek to censor, but to promote the flourishment of the principle of firmly banked creative freedom. But only 200 words.
Is everyone attending? Where was I? I am only one being, a singular man. Let all the airy angels observe. Experience.
Is that all?
Oh, the rhythm is off. It was broken beyond repair, and the interruption, one cannot force great words.
Then we will test. Professor, are your feet aligned with the edge of the wall? Close your eyes.
They are closed.
Record that the professor confirmed he had achieved the parameters of the test.
Check.
Now, as if with the interior eye of the mind's phantasm, Dr. Belvedere, I compel you to see the second coming of the fog. It rolls over the limp rind of the sea, yellowish, crude, and gasping. For its gasp, imagine the sound of the door swinging open on the walls. A centurion rasping, the rasping of all the ages of dust shivering down.
Oh dear.
Let the fog roll over and over itself as it proceeds, as the rolling and scratching of rats on a corpse ship adrift in the nethers, a rudderless doldrum of coiling pestilence licked by a scaly brine.
Belvedere sways on the walls.
confirm that you are afflicted by the fog.
I am unflinching. I am without trepidation.
See the miasma approach. It swallows the yachts in their yard. It muffles the jovial songs of the yacht builders and damps their coveralls. Quickly it approaches the walls. With incredible briskness it approaches, driven onward by its own damp maw, the damp and soft gumming forward of its silent velvety maw. It has come from across the sea.
Oh!
Professor, confirm that you are afflicted by the fog.
The fog grays my eyes. I can see no crisp shape. No object stands out. No word can form in the delicate and velvety burbling of the felt-like miasma
The fog encroaches the walls. It enters. We discover walls to a fog are not walls, but steps. The miasma is upon us. We shall perish in silence and purposelessness, untethered from form, our dust flattened in damp.
Let it not be!
Belvedere, groaning, sways drastically forward as if he might topple over the wall. Jim Pest cranes forward expectantly. Belvedere heels back and falls to the stone parapet. He opens his eyes in the overbright sun.
I am dead. I am silenced. I have lost my form. Where is my body? My eyes overflow with a grim light which obscures my hand. Where is my hand? What is this rude molten blob I hold at the end of my arm?
The fog has taken the professor. It is a tragic day. It is a day that will go down in the record, a day we will carry forward through the grim years of fog.
But of course, it was only a fantasy.
You have killed me, murderer. The scientist values his result more than he values human life. He is unethical. Let him study no longer.
At the least, he will have to go before the ethics board. This will drastically upset our pursuit of knowledge. Perhaps it shall never recover. We shall have to make a plan to rescue our public image, to regain the trust of the public. But who will write the slogan, the dead man or the criminal?
Belvedere's thrashing lugubriously on the parapet of the walls above.
And yet, Belvedere...
Who will sculpt the public's experience of catharsis and resolution?
What? Do not speak to me. Your words are too vivid to be borne.
He speaks. I do not like to boast, but I believe I have inadvertently discovered, as I studied the vitality of a realistic fog, a curative for the rigors of death itself. He is reborn.
Professor, are you alive, dead, or neither? Yes or no?
Perhaps I am past death. I have survived my own death.
He lives!
You see the strength of my technology? It is thus, from the intermix of science and arts, that we might furnish ourselves with a rich avenue for leveraging the future.
I have survived my own death. I have jigged with the boatman in the yellow fog, and I jig now on the wall.
It is a great day. Not only has the professor been returned to us from the vile and bland phantasm of death by fog, but we have made significant strides in the pursuit of knowledge.
But him! He is a menace, a lizard, a murderer. Look at the evil look in his little gleaming eye. He tried to kill me because he knew I could see the truth of his nature, and I did not flinch, but spoke its name out loud. He tried to kill me by fog, but I did not submit, but danced back from death. Wicked, hateful, psychopath.
That is enough science and testimony for one day. The schedule will not allow for more than one trial. We will retire to ponder what this fateful rescue denotes about our purpose here.
Scene 5, retrospective. Jim Pest sits next to a lectern in an admiral's uniform. Belvedere lounges on the walls above. Balloon enters smiling broadly, clapping and encouraging the audience to clap. Stands at the lectern and gestures for silence.
A poet once wrote, "The measure of a wall is in its dust, and yet dust again. Waftingly, the dusted blossom too falls." Though he hardly requires any introduction, I feel at least I ought to note that few are those with such privileged access to the depths of sentiment as our own Jim Pest. From his earliest years, Jim Pest has been wrapped in courageous examination of the glamours of the in-between across all the plastic arts, as well as the lexical. He has built an uncompromising career of the wrenchingly honest study of liminality, a standard he uses as a measure to test for the delicate balance of his sensibility, by which he projects his visionary project back into the selfsame enclosure from which its primogenera were birthed. But by what terms might we truly describe genius? I remember as if in an etched glass the first time this young artist, Jim Pest, sauntered into the cultural center, a distasteful wad of filthy scribblings tucked firmly into the waistband of his greasy trousers.
Balloon pauses for laughter. Jim Pest nods and smiles self-deprecatingly, brushes dust ineffectually from his admiral's jacket.
But it is the way of culture to neglect at first those forces which might seem to us lesser consumers to emanate from beyond even the most expansive ken or reckoning of the culture itself. And I should take this moment to thank our Cultural Center for its significant role in producing this event, our center, which inexhaustibly promotes both the production of culture and its shaking throughout the area of the strategic plan. I would like now to take a moment to review a few of Jim Pest's many significant works. First, it would be criminal to ignore the early works, Jim Pest's youthful forays into shadow nomina. In his first manifesto, Jim Pest wrote that the shadow is a brutal intimation of the formlessness of the outside, sketched as a negative rupture on the inside, unquote. To produce down shadow, Jim Pest, beginning at the south-southwest angle of the wall as the sun first lit the parapet of the eastern tower on the morning of the third day of the fourth cycle, took up a rude implement, an implement that would be natural to the hand of a net smasher, a rod he had found in the dust, a rod with which he still works, and traced in the dust of the south-southwest angle of the morning of the third day of the fourth cycle the heretofore unremarked suture where the grotesquerie of the nude sun's puddling attached itself to the wall's vibrant and retreating shadow, traced and hence captured the shadow at the very point whereupon the puddling besieged it. For the duration of the third day of the fourth cycle, the artist used his rod to trace repeated lines at a space of 2 centimeters.
An audience member draws a watch from their pocket and clears their throat.
Yes, well, with no further fanfare, he needs none of it. I offer you Jim Pest.
Balloon backs away, applauding performatively as Jim Pest stands, bobbing his head and waving, and takes the podium, pridefully adjusting his epaulets.
I thank the Cultural Center and the tireless and instrumental work of Balloon, its attaché. In producing this event, I am disintegrating in gratitude. What an honor. I would like to begin by presenting what I consider to be the purest statement of my work. It may shock, it may discomfit. I hope the day will come that it will be accepted as a mirror, Bible, or instructive manual for the unstoried generations yet to arrive. A word about my methods. I use only the most rigorous and mathematical of concepts. I aspire to architecture. What you will shortly hear is, in essence, a comprehensive knowledge. I'll begin. A dog is a goat that sits. A sit is a gravitational fold. A fold is a flatness refashioned. A flat is an expanse between walls. A wall is a stony purpose. A stone is a dense goat. A goat is the regulator of yards. A yard is a measure of grass. A measure is a certainty. A certainty is a purpose. A purpose is epistemological. An episteme is dust. Dust is a prerogative. A prerogative is the density of creatures. A creature is quintessentially a dog. A dog is that which licks. A lick is the sea's persistent activity. Persistence is a circle. A circle is a self-conscious and finite containment. A containment is a means of measure. A means is justified against a wall. A wall is a bargain with gravity. A bargain is a dilettante. A dilettante is neither one thing nor another. One is not another. Another is not one. One is a singular statement.
And would
a
have
statement
stuff
is
upon
a
her
building
arms,
block.
tired
A block
of the salty
is a stone.
harbors,
A
eager
stone is
for
a
the
dense
brine,
goat.
and
A
bellowing
density
of the high
is a
interiors
purpose
of
of
the
collapse.
sea.
A purpose
The
is
wind
an
speeds
impenetrable
her
circle.
on,
Impenetrability
blowing
is
upon her hands
wall
and
is a
wandering
bargain
back.
with gravity.
She touches the
Gravity
clouds
is a delay.
where she goes
Delay
in
is
the
a
circle
measured
of her
shepherd
traverse of the
certainty.
sea.
The shepherd
Yet this
deals
is
in
meager
goats.
clay
Goats
in
are
the
very
skirt
yards.
and
Many
water
ways to
shine
protect
as
a
her
standard.
heels foam, not as when the goldener nude of a later day will go, like the center of sea green pomp, in an intenser calm upon her irretrievable way. What of that? What of that? Let me be the first to say this retrospective will overshadow the history of the greatest follies for generations to come. The art of Jim Pest is nothing but capture, catch and release art. I could turn to the net smashers for the same. I will not speak against it, but I must bear witness, for as it pretends to art, it ignobles it, lowering the state of culture profoundly. Those who cannot forge their own way through the scurry and watershine lap up this crumb smilingly and exclaim and laud it, though it is nothing but the putrescent negative remainder of greatness. Great artist. Why, I remember the great artists. Pondrake and Cappadonis. There shall be no golden anode for this panderer, this snake-eyed circus dog, this gin pest. As you can see, the professor...
As you can see, the professor is afflicted with a sensitivity. Perhaps we can reconvene along the south corner of the walls.
Balloon and Jim Pest carry the lectern off stage.
What is this but a pathetic aspiration toward realisticism? The old masters held more courage in a thimble of dyes than Jim Pest's entire oeuvre. Renzo knew how to fade imaginaries into the palimpsest of reality. Van Dietrich could color the earth with his dreams. Kiyozuki wrote through his eyes. Don't be fooled by these abstractions before you. I spit and spit again on this retrospective. Retrospective? Retrograde. An insult to genius.
Scene 6. A bad case of self-doubt.
Finally, a moment's peace. A body can hardly narrow their gaze on any relevance around here without some clapping gape jaws kneading out their approval of novices for combing their hair in the morning. I'm alone now. My ruminations are giving themselves over to me and me alone. No need to attenuate my lubrications on the unmerited squanderers of eternity below.
Belvedere sinks to his hands and knees and drags a disorganized heap of reams, scraps, and notebooks out of a crack in the wall.
Ah, the yachtsmen. My subject possesses me as I possess them. They knob and gristle in their monowhites as futility demands. They do not betray much admiration for their purpose, but their dedication is consuming. They are wound like the gears of a watch. Yet they output such non-deterministic angles and features. They are a technology for certain. They are a technology that I much admire, but have no compulsion to touch, for I fear it is an inhuman industry toward which they are laboring. To the task at hand, then. Was I on the third derivative of the xylem pump? No. That was covered in my reckoning verses. Yes, I left off on the mortar casings on the saddle truncheon of the My Freedom out of Liverpool. On that note, it was with viscous pliancy that her guardianship escorted her out of the Bertindelli shipping yard. That escort refers to what I term in Volume 3, ex-circumscribed freedom, or the freedom of being without within. Oh, but that hasn't happened yet. Let me return to my numbers. Calculations never forget. Straight to the point. You can always count on the precision of numbers. Yes, that's quite good of me to think. Of course. The simplicity, the integrity. 27 to 187.7, 805, 805, 6th, 12 more, 72, 321. What? How could it be? The last digit has fallen, descended. It was clearly round when I last worked the equation. How can it not sum now? Has some deviled Milner tampered my throughput? Let me double tack. Here it is. 14, 3, 4089, 88. Yes, that's more like it. And yet 88. That isn't right. A bane upon these ceremonies thrown day and night below. I cannot remember my work through these incessant distractions.
Belvedere briefly shuffles papers, then throws them down.
I hear it all now, every glint and every pause. I hear them all so loudly now. What a fearsome sound, I cannot drown it out. Left without my command of certitude, my will shakes low. Of all the numbers I've accumulated, of all the calculations I've equated, how can I be sure of the treacherous intruders into the truth of the diagram? There is a liar amongst you, one who cannot speak in grammar, but only in lines and twists. Who is it? Who is it? Number 36? Or is it you, number 91? Won't you look at me through this veil of noisy gestures? Am I louder than you now? I'll never be louder than the lie, I know.
Belvedere sits down on his hands.
Who calls this disparagement on me? Who claimed my turn? And with what right? What authority claimed my right turn? There will be nothing to do, having fully done with what I do, but to die. Each calculation collapses into that one, and then the void opens, the apron at the end of the mast. What then of the Paloma out of Valeto? What then of the lucky lawyer, cutting proudly through the chop below the fluttering flag of Puerto Vallarta, city of the leaping swordfish? Calypso, and the great crossbow with their shallow forecast drafts, and what then of the Agora 3, her armada of tenders and toys neatly hidden in invisible cabinets within her sporty, sleek bosoms? It is a question that haunts me, but this morbid line of thought will drag me under. Where is the gauche fete of the faux artist?
Scene 7. Balloons lament. Jim Pest and Belvedere pace the walls, each deep in thoughts they are vocalizing to themselves.
The bilge teaches us how to live, to be sure, which is to say, it teaches us how to die.
Does the bilge not cycle? Is the bilge not respirational? Does the bilge not respond to the slanders of its worshippers?
It teaches us how to die awash in a florid putrescence, a textural expression that strengthens the walls by contrast, by its very moistness in gel, by its...
Does the bilge not interpret our actions? Does the bilge not...
Now, I'm aware that my interpretations are heterodox. Quite heterodox, I will allow myself that. It is a true mind that does not flinch from a truth discovered in the unlikeliest of places, those places which the culture at large, knowing not its true form, protects most vituperously in the lacquer of inherited tradition.
If I had been able to continue without interruption, I would have arrived at the thought that I am developing an extremely heterodox concept of the bilge, one hinging on the continual stretching of death as a method of cultural ballast and reinforcement.
I was developing a theory heterodox in the extreme of shrunken life as I passed. The shrunken life enforced by the walls and by the counterpoint of the moist and sloshing bilge which regularly coats them results, albeit at a sub-decimal rate, in a hyperdense life object which marvelously outsources death into the nethers of the walls beyond.
Our heterodox theories, both heterodox to the extreme, are utterly opposed and yet fundamentally identical. I cannot conscience this.
No.
Given that a thing may not be both one thing and an opposing one at once, conclusions must be sought elsewhere?
The bilge, both the source of truth and its opposite, both stretched and shrunken. How can an object occur simultaneously both within and without the concept it represents?
The facts compel me to the conclusion that the bilge is nothing more than a mere wool. The cultural center has schemed to eject its consumers and producers alike from their righteous access to truth.
I have been hoodwinked. The lick-spittle attaché has been feeding me a line. How can my opus attain completion when the mind of its author has been smothered in a wool?
I must take these distressing conclusions to the center. Balloon deserves fair trial before betrayals are intoned.
Balloon!
Professor, Jim Pest, thrice bitten on the walls. What a fine day.
J'accuse! Fere libenter homines id quod volunt credunt.
Now the craven servant must be given a chance to object. Balloon, what exactly is in the bilge that we led upon the cycle? I hereby publicly register my suspicion that the bilge is merely a broken syllogism.
It will not stand up to a dialectic.
But the bilge is a fundamental symbol of the value of the culture. It sustains us each to each, wall to wall.
The attaché repeats the empty propaganda.
The bilge is of fundamental value to sustain culture in the wall as the strategic plan to revitalize the waterfront is furthered on the cultural coast. Development is not possible without bilge, and bilge is not possible without continuous letting. It is the means by which the culture can continue to achieve its purpose. It is...
I fully intend to convene a group of concerned cultural leaders to determine a plan to engage with this matter. It is best to face such things head on, to say firmly and clearly, no more. The attaché cannot even answer the question as to the bilge's content.
A culture is only as free as its information. I ask again, what is the bilge? What is the source of its power?
Balloon takes off the shoe.
Ah!
Jim Pest and Belvedere, repulsed by this, retreat. Balloon stands in the center of the courtyard, holding the shoe which is used variously, to gesture, as an interlocutor, and to punctuate.
I am a misery of tainted circumstances, a rhetoric in two poles. I suffer the law of my metropolis. It is as if we all attest to the same abuse. Yes, he tore out my eye, he tore out my eye. Oh, 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 no! This is not mine. I only say the same things twice. Schooner, sloop. My rotted tooth bleeds and I dab it with a swab. Your tooth is very unbecoming, I say to the pigeons and the fish. They feel their own becoming. It makes them strut and dart. Sometimes they hum. Here there is a sea blotted with silver cups, a solid sheath and a nylon hose. I am not cruel. I am efficient. I feed the pigeons that die to the fish. The pigeons strut and yawn on the walls. And you have nothing to say but this clicking. You click with your single paw. The walls stand with the bilge rushing. The verbs stand, rush, dart, and dust. I walk between the pots and sweep the dust, and there is a line where the shadow touches the glare, where I breathe sharply and grasp fully, and again for the first time the intricate tableau of the culture shrinking, glowing, and sinking into foamy bilge. At night I polish my shoe with the terry cloth. I eat my fish and brush my shoe and moan. I nod, cough, and buzz. When I am alone, I buzz. I rise to an expanse. It is as big as the largest thing, a courtyard so vast the far walls are as slender as a hair. Picture it, the stillness, the glare, the revelation that struts forth from the blankness. But as is my daily custom, I will confess to you my chief sins. Chiefly, I am restless. Secondly, though I know my purpose, it is to liaise between the cultural center and the population it serves, I do not always fully feel it. Thirdly, at times I find myself filled with a violent urge. I would like to hurl myself against the cultural center and continue to hurl myself until its walls were bright and slick. These are my chief sins. To put it plainly, I lack the innate satisfaction which is my responsibility as a productive member of society. You see how difficult it is. But you, my intimate companion, I will tell you what is in the bilge. Dogs' bones are in the bilge. Dogs' bones and the corpses of dogs. The dog's mouth is foamy and loud, and it holds a terror. The dog's body slinks in through openings. But it is purified by the elegant mastications of our culture as it slips in and disappears. This is some of the work of the Cultural Center. It has many programs.
Night falls abruptly and Balloon is subsumed in darkness. Jim Pest returns to the stage.
Jim Pest, do not play me for a shadow. Do not attempt that dance. Am I not still a representative of myself despite this moment of mishap and anguish? Am I not the very balloon that fed you from my purse over so many working luncheons? Why do you look at me? Do I remind you of a riddle?
Jim Pest looks down, ashamed of his behavior toward Balloon. A dim light comes up on Jim Pest.
I know your riddle. I have a mouth, but I do not talk. I have 2 legs, but cannot walk. I eat till I've had my fill. Then I go for a roll and I take my spill.
Scene 8. The magnum opus is unveiled. Balloon is examining a collection of small stones in the courtyard. Belvedere, clutching a sheet of paper, clambers with difficulty down from the walls. He stumbles and cries out.
Of all the fleas on all the dogs, what intrudes now? Belvedere, never have I seen you condescend foot to dust. Is our reckoning at hand? Have you come to collect our bones for the discretization of the wall?
I call to humbly inform the center that it is complete.
No, you don't announce.
Yes, it is finished.
By the dust of the shadow of the mouth of the river of the world, how striking, how rare!
I would like it to go straight into the hands of the center.
With your permission, of course, the center would like to make the work available across several platforms. Is it entirely ready to be made culture?
Ready? Certainly it's ready. The work has been carried out for the benefaction of the wall and all that it encloses. It is my offering to all that have passed the bilge.
The timing could not be better. I dread to say, I have recently been beset by a disharmony. The revelation of the opus will realign my verticals, so I can continue to be useful with the satisfied devotion the culture deserves. I will call on a team of couriers to retrieve the work.
That will not be necessary, for I hold the complete masterwork in my hand.
But it is minute. I have seen reams piled in your study from floor to ceiling. What has become of the manifold strategies?
Yes, despite the many sheaths and tablets which took up my drafts and calculations, I have been able to distill all the histories, astrologies, maths, spirits, and politic into a few abbreviated symbols to arrive at a singularity.
Might I take a quick glimpse?
Belvedere hands Balloon the paper. Upon looking at the sheet for 10 seconds, Balloon begins to weep.
I cannot stand.
Well, best wishes.
Belvedere sits down in the dust. Scene 9. There is nothing left now but to die. Belvedere is alternately lying weakly on a pallet and flailing in a frenzied panic. Balloon and Jim Pest attend him.
Benjamin! Benjamin! I feel the taint of all the latitudes upon me. What does a life do to its man? Lassitude, I am shakeless.
Professor, sir, your work is so thorough. The thoroughness of your remains unfading.
It is not a death when a great man dies. I will fetch you your bladder.
I will tell you one thing, I am older than you. Small pleasures make the day.
I am arranging a craping of the walls.
Who will execute the estate? Who is the archivist?
Benjamin! Sir, put down your
I
hands.
just see a great mind besmirched.
But listen to his profane titling, how he teaches us even now.
There is great meaning in nouns. He builds a firm concept.
He paces. Ah, the grand deck. Oh, the 100th suite.
But from whence his lineage? One must attend to certain matters.
The wall his mother, the dust his father, the body a vase that readies for pouring.
Now is not the time for platitudes.
Death is a platitude.
The longitude, the latitude. Who holds my euros? Who pays the toll?
His eyes fill with the dust.
My eyes, they fill with the dust. Each item recedes into foul mote and waft. Yet I stand a man. I do not shirk. Lift me. That's enough. I require my mechanic. Benjamin.
He requires the bilge.
It is true that the bilge is a well-known physic. However, its properties are desegmented, its results unpredictable.
I have long considered myself something of an assessor. I am sure you, Balloon, concur in your capacity as cultural attaché. There are times for dust and there are times for bilge.
But the wall stands untimed.
The wall! Greatness itself falls.
Ha! His little speech insults the wall. Sir belittles, imagines himself too grand for his only stature.
I will administer the bilge.
Benjamin, begin dictation. To wit, I see the ship-breaking yards and the poisonous flats. I am pacing the ship-breaking yards at the mouth of the great Ganges, where that great dun river coils into the salt flats, and the sparkling dusts rain from the spines of the mammoth ships sunk in the flats and spoil. One comes to meet me, the river.
He raves. Yet an assertion outstands an assessment. Jim Pest.
Jim Pest is readying the bilge hastily off stage.
It is a well-known character.
I have never allowed myself to crumble to fear, which is a phantasm.
This is unprecedented. I feel I ought to report to the center.
One cannot defer when the moment for a great decision is at hand. Belvedere, the unrivaled scholar, the great critic, will drink of the bilge. An event befalls us, a great event. We are present.
Belvedere grabs Jim Pest firmly, pulls him close.
I am certain now that you have never known the sea as I have. I have walked the wall and watched. I have seen the men who build the yachts. I have seen them at their work and at their rest. I have seen how they eat their sandwiches and throw a piece to the gulls. I have pondered this. I have.
Jim Pest begins to pour the bilge down Belvedere's throat. Balloon unearths a bit of charcoal and begins to scrawl an illegible report on the bedsheet.
I have seen the sea shatter into pink shards. I have seen the visions of the trillion shards. I have thought deeply, long past my evening call. I have turned my face to the fog. I have faced it and faced it. I have done my jig, my bold jig of the yachts in the fog. I have never shrugged.
Belvedere gradually subsides. Jim Pest releases him back onto the bed. He falls limply. His eyes are closed. Jim Pest looks consideringly at his face, as one looks at a painting. Balloon continues industriously scratching the report.
How can you think of details in the quick of this moment, of altitudes and angles, when such a life turns phase?
But how not? How can I think of anything but color and shade? My only recourse in a time of such upheaval is to count the shapes that surround. The poetry falls slack. The momentum reclines. If not for my details, I should fail to exist at all.
I shall remember to remind you of yourself when the pace begins anew.
Scene 10, Memorial. Jim Pest and Balloon stand, bedecked in black crepe, over a small funerary shrine erected in honor of Belvedere. An epilogue is spoken by Belvedere, but he is not seen.
The initiate is unaware of the sub-rhythms of our way. I implore you not to uncritically accept this account. The truths that I have derived from the vantage of our noble enclosure are thus and more. Equitability is confraternal, that is, to attain justice among men it is necessary to structure upon and within an edifice of scrutiny. We have attained our placid dimension here through a repetition of orderings, third upon fifth, orange against blue, night after moon. I see the mutiny of the exterior daily, and I bless the confinement of our way. Those that labor elsewise know no foundations. The fish scrapers sweat from glands of indifference. The yacht merchants trade leisure monosyllabically. The architects hammer perversely. They wonder back at us, I'm sure, but their vantage is obscured by the walls, both of mortar and perspective, that inculcate us from the flirts of their way. Perhaps you'll suggest this is easy for me to say from my anointed perch as the theoretician of the facility's future, but I am no planner. I am a reminder, or at most, a renderer. You will come to understand that these exchanges are circular. What is said to me and what I say to others are just etchings, not engravings. We will speak our parts, but the listeners have left us to our effusions. All of our transmutinous digressions are coterminous. When we rot in synchrony. When we emerge in anachrony. Our will contain us.
That's it.